right now, so I want to sort of change from style to style.
Well, a few of y'all know about me. I was born in 1991 to a blues family. 23 next month. But the blues, growing up, it was always in the house. It was like food. I knew it was there. It would always be there. My grandmother used to put on the record. And when I was a little kid, my great uncle used to come to the house all the time, and he'd bring his guitar, an old Supra, and he'd start playing. And I'd get out of bed, it would be 2 o'clock in the morning. Where's that coming from? And so in 1994, my grandfather passed away, but like a couple weeks before he passed away, he said, talking to my uncle, he said, "Man, Ned," he said, "if that boy had a guitar, I believe he'd learn how to play." My uncle said, "You believe so?" He said, "Yes, sir, that boy learned how to play. I know he will." So when I got about 10, 11 years old, my uncle said, "All right, let's go to the pawn shop." Went to the pawn shop and brought a guitar. He said, "You like it?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Now let's go to my house." And then he put on some light and hop. Going back home, just as soon as the good Lord would break his day. Going back home, just as soon as the good Lord would break his day. I won't stay. So I could listen to that light and Hopkins. I could listen to that light and Hopkins. I mean, I listened to that light before I would listen to anybody else. And my uncle said, "All right." He said, and my nickname, if I must give it to you, is Jimmy. Like Jimmy Reed, because the first song I learned how to play was "Oh Baby, You Don't Have to Go." And my uncle said, "Boy, your name is Jimmy Reed." And so, you know, the B.B. King and the Albert King, and of course, before you asked me, my guitar got a name. It came with a name already, Lucille. I couldn't name it. So I like all that good blues. And I'm gonna do a Harlem Wolf, then I'll give it to somebody. You so sweet, you so fine. All I wish you were mine. Honey, oh, be your love. You be mine. You be mine. Tell me, pretty baby, is you gonna try? Say I'm stuck in that traditional blues.
Thank you so much, Marky. And we welcome you to the blues community.
Thank you, dear.
Young man doing a real thing, folks. Come on, give it up. You know, I had a lot of epiphanal moments in trying to do this thing. Because when I was growing up, it wasn't the kind of thing a gal could get a hold of. So I was a young, baby boomer, listening to the Blues Breakers, John Mayall, Eric Clapton. The cool thing about them is they talked about all the real blues cats that were happening in this country. And I got to discover them, and gradually, finally, by the time I was grown, I got to buy myself an electric guitar. So I was a bit of a late starter, but man, you know, I moved up to Northern California and there was a club there. The Inn of the Beginning, old hippie club, and they had all the blues cats coming through. So while I was trying to learn to play, I could sit at the feet of Buddy Guy and Junior Wells and Albert Collins, Etta James, and these people playing in this small club blew my mind. So I just kept trying to sit around and figure it out, you know, and I went through different phases. You know, I had my, you know, Stevie Ray phase, I guess. And then I kind of got more into the Albert Collins thing and got really lucky. Got to go out with Albert. And since then, I think I've sort of been into the funky side of the blues, you know. So, turn that on. We do stuff like, if you love me like you say, treat me like you do. Just little funky stuff. It's kind of hard to do without a band, but you know, I try to incorporate that into a lot of my writing, and I also do just plain old shuffles and slow blueses because I love them so much. And there, a lot of the epiphanal moments I've had in playing the blues has been hearing other great artists. And one such artist that really blew my mind, and I had one of those aha moments, was hearing John Hammond. Because the first thing you notice is just how deep he's into the song, his soul. And you're hearing it and feeling it through his singing. But then you start going, wait a minute, this cat is playing guitar and harmonica at the same time. And you just get more and more wowed through the show. So right now I'd like to just give it up here to blues legend John Hammond.
Well, when I was 7 years old in 1949, my father brought me to hear Big Bill Bruce at Judson Church in New York City. I was just blown away by the power of this man and great songs and the feeling. And then I was introduced to him after the show. I remember his hand seemed like a giant's hand and my little fingers. And he was just a fantastic guy. Ever since then I was sort of attracted to blues music. And in the early 1950s in New York, there was artists passing through, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGhee, Josh White, Lead Belly. I was just gravitated towards that music. And in the mid-1950s, there was the Alan Freed rock and roll shows that came through. Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, Jackie Wilson, all these phenomenal players. Bo Diddley stuck out in my mind, and I went out and bought all his records. 1957, I bought a record called The Country Blues. It was a compilation of artists, mostly from the 1930s. There was one cut on this by a guy named Robert Johnson. Oh my. He seemed to be like the synthesis of all the players of his era. And I really got seriously into not playing at that point, but I got a guitar when I was 17 and I started playing professionally when I was 19. That's all I wanted to do. I knew that was going to be my life. In 1958, I got to see Jimmy Reed play, and I never saw anyone play harmonica and guitar at the same time. And that had a big influence. And I don't know. I bought my first national guitar at a guitar store in New York, Eddie Bell's Guitar Headquarters, and bought it for $60. He had it in the store for 30 years and couldn't sell it. Plus the case. So I got into Robert Johnson's stuff really early. Just a little bit of what. Come on, man. Woke up this morning feeling right from my shoes. You know about it, baby, got the old walking blues. I woke up this morning, I'm feeling round from the shoes. You know about it, baby, I got it. Ooh, child, got the walking blues.
So much, John. It's just, you guys aren't going to hear something like that anywhere else. So it's one of the beautiful things about being on the boat is getting to hear all these different styles and to hear someone as deep and beautiful as John Hammond. So spread the word, folks, you know, about this experience, about all these great artists here. We're going to turn a little corner into a whole different style now. And Mr. Chris Kane will blow your mind as he has blown mine. Because there's nobody like him. He's got his very own style. And like so many of us, you know, we listen to a lot of stuff. And then I know Albert used to always say, you got to do yourself. You got to turn it into your own thing. So I'm just going to let Chris talk a little bit about what he does.
Thank you, Deb. Just glad to be up here with all the gentlemen and these wonderful ladies, and appreciate being invited to this. I was very lucky as well. My father was a truck driver, and he had his little guitar and amplifier that every Sunday he would get it out and he would play these little arrangements of things, blues things that he kind of worked out on his own. So the first thing I ever played on the guitar was, I was about 8 years old, and he showed me his little arrangement of Baby Please Don't Go, and it was like, you know. And I was just thought, as I got older, you know, I thought, that's pretty amazing that, like, you know, him as a truck driver, and he really wasn't a musician per se, like thinking of, but he loved that music so much, and he had the best records always. He always had the best records and the biggest record player. And so he just made these arrangements up, you know, on his own. And so when I was about 8 years old, he showed me that, and you know, and we never missed B.B. King when he would come to the San Jose Civic Auditorium. It was like B.B. King, Ray Charles, and Charles Brown were kind of like, and Otis Spann were like gods in my house. You know, my mother was Greek. My dad was black from Alexandria, Louisiana. So it was a kind of a pot of stuff in there, you know what I mean? Because mom had her things, but she loved the blues too, you know. So I was just really fortunate that I always got to hear the good records. And he'd go down to Oakland to this place called Wolf's and get these records, you know. And it was just beautiful. So I got to hear a lot of things. I mean, he would get out in the morning to mow the lawn, and he had a big column that was like from a track meet or something, and he'd plug the stereo into that and put Muddy on, you know, and he'd mow the lawn. And he had the thing on 12, you know. And I went through my whole Beatlemania thing and all that stuff, you know, but there came a point when it really hit me, you know, that, and then I had all these records in my room, you know, and I was trying to figure out all my stuff. And, you know, he took me to Fillmore to, like, meet and see Albert King, who are all my favorites, you know, Albert King, B.B. King, and that whole thing. And then much later, it came to the, you know, like the Lightning Hopkins things and stuff, because I was so just into, you know, BB and his thing and Albert and his thing. And, you know, but my dad was like Stone, you know, it was all the Delta stuff. It was Lightning Hawkins, Muddy Waters, and, you know, Sonny Boy and that thing. And so I was just really, really lucky that I had, you know, parents that, you know, really enjoyed music that much, because it was always like the other, I was saying things, it was always in the house, you know, and I was just fortunate that, you know, I got into that, you know what I mean? I never could really sing or anything, but I got so into that B.B. King thing, you know, that I don't know how it happened, but somehow it just, I gravitated to his kind of a thing. I mean, I loved all the players. I'm more of a fan than a player, but, you know, B.B. just hit me like a ton of bricks, you know what I mean? It was like, I mean, and to see it, you know, right in front of your face was just incredible. I mean, I can think of it right now, and that hair stands up. It just was beautiful. You know, I saw Albert King times when he'd play 4 nights in a row, and by the end of it, I couldn't talk for a month because I just sit in front of an amplifier and scream, you know. I just lose my mind. So, you know, I love all of those guys, and, you know, that whole... I don't even know your name, but I love you just the same. If you let me hold your hand, then I think maybe I could make you understand. You know, I mean, I just love it. You know, I mean, I just love this. You know, just the kind of thing that would just rock your world, you know? I mean, I'd come home from school, you know, and I have a bowl of cereal, and then I go in there and then I try to be B.B. King for like, you know, 4 hours till dinner time. You know, but that was my thing, you know, and I still do that today. I mean, it's just, I love the guitar, I love guitar players, and I just feel like it's a dream kind of that, you know, I end up going to places where I can meet all the people that kind of think that way. And I don't know, it's just been, for me, this piece of wood has just been like a ticket to everything that I really love, you know, and it's just been beautiful. And, you know, I'll be doing this until they take it away from me, I guess. This particular one is Melba, like the toast, you know. And I thought of Melba more. I don't know what I was thinking, but Melba. I had another one named Hortense that got stolen. So this is number 2. I love it.
Well, may Melba have a better luck with you than Hortense did. One thing I got into, you know, growing up in the Southwest is all that jump swing and stuff. So I like so many styles, it's really hard to even share them with you guys. Each one of these players has a style that really gets to me. So right now I want to, you know, I was saying I got a little bit of a late start on the guitar, but then there's a gentleman next to me here that you know, when he was an embryo man, he was practicing. So he came out, and he's still very young, but man, does he know all the blues styles. Playing with Sugar Ray and the Blue Tones right now. Let's talk a little bit to Monster Mike Welch.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a conversation with Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and we took a selfie, and I think I'm going to caption it, Teenage Blues Class of 1996. And I have to say, it's totally bizarre to not be the youngest person on the boat. Yeah, Marquis only sounds like he's 87 years old. So, one of the things, you know, The first thing I got into musically was the Beatles. I had an older cousin who played Beatles songs. I was about 8 years old, he was 13. Of course, I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. So I went to my dad's record collection. My dad had one of those very 60s record collections that had everything the Beatles did. He was a huge Dylan fan. He talks about feeling like a weird little kid until the freewheeling Bob Dylan saved his life. And he also had a bunch of blues stuff. He had the sort of contemporary blues rock stuff from when he got into it. So it was everything Clapton did, everything Hendrix did, the Stones up to a certain point. A couple of my favorite records were the John Hammond records. But he also had, he had Robert Johnson's King of the Delta Blues Singers. He had Muddy Waters, more real folk blues. He had, so I decided if he was hip enough to have the Beatles stuff, then I would just listen to everything he had. Because apparently my dad was pretty cool, who knew? And so I started playing guitar because of the Beatles, and then I did the classic thing of reading liner notes, reading interviews, checking songwriting credits. Definitely, no one gives better, more informative interview than Eric Clapton, because through him I heard Freddie King, and specifically that great King record stuff. He talked about I Love the Woman, which is still one of my favorite things, But the thing, so I was playing a lot of different styles of like blues-based music, basically just trying to do any of it. And I remember putting on an Albert King record, probably I was about 10 or 11. I remember putting on an Albert King record, sort of kind of dozing off on the couch. It was a live record called Wednesday Night in San Francisco. And, I was kind of enjoying the first couple tunes, kind of dozing off on the couch, and then Albert starts the third song, like, and I was just like, okay, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to make that sound. So I got really deep into it. I copied a lot of people. I think everyone starts that way. But one of the interesting things to me about this group of guitar players is that, so far everything everyone's played, both as well as them being great, the examples everyone has given have been huge influences on me. But the interesting thing is that we all hear different stuff in those people. Like Marquise last night, I heard him do Crosscut Saw, and he did his version